black storm coming. See the lightning strike. Black people rising.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Umoja Circle. This is part two of a two-part review that I'm doing on the movie that came out in April of this year, 2025. A blockbuster movie, a phenomenal movie, a very spiritual movie in a sense, even though it has to do with vampires. And this is what I'm going to be doing in the show called Sinners. And this is the poster for that movie that I'll be talking about with many different great acting, especially by Michael B. Jordan up there on top. Another one of my favorite was the sister Wunmi Masaku, who played Annie. And I think another one favorite was Delta Slim. Very great acting, but all the acting was great. In the first half of the movie, I made a statement that about this individual coming up next. His name is Ryan Coogler, but I also brought his wife Zinni there in the frame because without her powerful feminine energy, he could not have that powerful male energy that produced these phenomenal films like the Black Panthers that he did and this great powerful film called Sinners. For those of you who might not know it, I guarantee it's more than just some vampire movies. In fact, the vampire movies, I'm not even going to focus on that too much. There are many different layers. I said in the first half that Sinners was like an onion, and it had so many different layers, and how deep you want to go into that onion and what layer you get to, you'll have a different perspective. And that's the genius of that movie. And also, he directed this movie in such a way to show that he's a genius to me, in a way that he embedded African and African-American cultural identity into a genre film with vampires in it. But it had nothing really to do. They're metaphors for the social structure that the movie and the place that movie's happening in is situated, in which they represent white assimilation. Okay, assimilation into the into those vampire represented what we had to go through and what we had to give up and got disconnected from when we were brought over here first in 1619 or 100 years earlier in the 1500s by the Spanish, who people don't like to use the term, but I use the term, it was human trafficking, not just slavery or slave trade. We weren't trading cattle, it was human trafficking. And when we brought over here, we got disconnected from our social structures, we got disconnected from our religious structures, economic systems. We had great empires. And like I said, the first part, that there was over maybe 100 or 120 different ethnic groups that were kidnapped and brought over here and got disconnected from their historical traditions. But some stayed with us, and that's why I'm underlying this, saying that the African and African American tradition is in this movie. This is the story about us, and basically, based on this book that I have over here, I recognize Yoruba people, their traditions. Okay, and I'm getting some of these traditions from that, and you'll see it embedded as we go on in this movie called Sinners. So I stopped at a particular point where I showed how Smoke and Stack represent Orishas. Orishas are divinities in the Yoruba traditions, in the Odu of Ifa. And here they're Yoruba traditions. And as you look up at the upper right-hand corner, you'll see two divinity called the Abeji, twins. Okay, and one wearing red and one's wearing blue. That's embedded in the stories. And I'll show you why as we continue with this show. Let's go on to the next. Okay, there's another variation of that Yoruba looking at twins. They considered twins very powerful and magical creatures where there is one spirit shared by two bodies. And if you look at the name of smoke and stack, a smokestack is a one thing. But these two are combining in their movements and just their names, as, to represent two that are one. Smokestack is a thing, a smokestack, and these two are two spirits. And you saw it in the earlier scenes in that factory where they were dealing with the Klansmen. They didn't have to talk to each other. They knew each other. One spirit, and that's an African thing that's embedded in the movie, especially of the Yoruba people. Let's go on to the next. Okay, in Yoruba religious traditions, the twins brothers associated with the color red and blue are the Ibeji. That's the red and blue. The Ibeji is the name of the Orishas, or deity, representing a pair of divine twins. They are associated with joy, mischief, you saw that in Stack, abundance, you saw that in both of them, and they protect children. You saw that when Smoke was driving with the cousin when they first picked him up, he asked the cousin, did the father beat you? Because that's what they do. They protect children. You saw it when he dealt with the young girl and how he not only tried to give her an idea of how to make an abundance in her money from the dime to the 20 cents. That's what they do. Those are little aspects and the characteristics of that. Both of them carry it, but you see each character was separated by one of those characteristics. That's how Michael B. showed that there are these two characters, and you forgot that they were the same person. But that's the magic of Ryan Coogler, who I consider like they use the term griot. I use the word as I talk about it in my first show, jali. Okay, that's the storytellers. And if you want to know more about that, just look at the first part of this show. The Ibeji are also associated with the color red and blue. Let's go. There's a reason why. Okay, these colors are linked to the powerful Orishas Shango. He's a god of thunder, lightning, similar to Zeus, similar to Thor. Yet, we're told this is evil, is witchcraft, but we walk around in Marvel Universe looking at the European Thor. We learn about Zeus in high school, no problem, don't even bat an eye. But when it comes to our spiritual concepts, that's considered evil or witchcraft or some nonsense like that. We are an ancient people, older than the Greeks, older than the Romans and those folks who have their pantheon of the gods. We've always had our own, but they have to live up to the image. We have to live up to the justification of those kidnappings. So we have to be lesser than, okay? And the laws that put us in those caste systems in this society that we call America, the land of the free and the home of the brave. Because if not, then all they have been telling us for the last 400 years is a lie. And I'm going to let you know it is a lie. We brought these things here with us. There are stories suggesting that the Ibeji could be the children of Shango and Yamaya. Now, there are various different stories. Let me get you right. Just like you have adventure of Hercules, or you have adventure of Thor, and many different stories. In the Yoruba Jali tradition, the Jali can adjust the stories to fit the crowd that he's in. They are the libraries. They are the historians. They are the advisor. Okay, so we had respectful individuals, but you couldn't see that when they were buried under in a slave ship and came over here and told we are N-words and all these other nonsense. But we brought with us that magic. As Delta Slim said when he was talking to Preacher Boy, we brought this stuff with us. It's big, okay, until they push that religion on us. Let's go on. Remick said the same thing too later on in the movie. Let's go on. In summary, the Yoruba divine twins, the Ibeji, which Smoke and Stack to me represents, are associated with the colors red and blue, likely due to their connection with powerful Orishas Shango and Yemaya. Let's go on to the next one. Okay, Shango, he's the majestic king of thunder and justice, strikes down the falsehood with his powerful double-headed axe, no different than Thor and his hammer. Dressed in flaming red, he commands storms and upholds divine law, protects of truth and dignity, Shango inspires strength, courage, and righteous leadership wherever his voice of thunder is heard. Nick, go on, and this is Shango, a black man with his double-headed sword, god of thunder, god of lightning, god of fire, god of war, no different than Zeus or Thor. They are okay, but somehow we are evil. Nonsense. Let's go on to the next. Here's the wonderful, powerful sister, the Orisha deity associated with the water, specifically rivers and oceans. She's revered as the mother of all the Orishas, all the other divines. She's the great mother, and like Mother Earth, okay? And symbols of motherhood, fertility, and the ocean. She also protects families, and this is what we brought with us. This is what we had for hundreds or thousands of years. But we are vilified these images. Ryan Coogler, who I consider the griot, since he wrote and directed this film, this was embedded. Again, this is just my perspective. I mean, say he said these things. This is how I see from my observation, my peeling of that onion. Let's go on to the next. This is an image of her with these veggies. Look familiar? Red and blue. Smoking stack. Let's go on. Look at that. Red and blue. Smoking stack. There's a reason it had those colors. Again, embedded in one of the traditions of the griot is to heal. Many of us were drawn to those colors for some reason. We just don't have the memory, the historical memory of who we are, but we had the genetic memory. And many of us are responding to that, whether we know it or not. Let's go on to the next one. And yes, the Yoruba people of the southwestern Nigeria have one of the highest rates of twin births in the world. That's why they have these twin divinities. Specifically, the town of Igbo Ora within the Yoruba territory is nicknamed the twin capital of the world. They have the highest production of twins. So they have in their spiritual traditions a reverence to gods that represent twins. Smoke and stack. Let's go on. High twin births were Yoruba communities, especially in the areas like Igbo, Aura, experienced twin birth rates significantly higher than the global average, okay? That town of Igbo, Aura is particularly known for this, with some reports stating that as high as 45 to 50 twin births per 1,000 births, compared to the global average of just 12 per 1,000 births. So twins are very renowned in the Yoruba people. And that's part of this story that is embedded in this movie, Sinners. You see these twins, powerful twins. Let's go on to the next. Yeah, what are the powers of these Ibeji twins? The Orisha Ibeji, and by associating the twins, were attributed to powers of fertility, prosperity, avengers, detective thieves. That's why you see in the movie they're associated with these thieves. Because in many of the stories about these twins, like I said, there are many different stories told by these griots or jollies of them having adventures and detecting thieves. Okay, that was associated in that movie. You saw that, and and a rainmaker, which is aspect of Shango's power, and the mother also. Let's go on. And also, it is revered. If one of the adult twins dies, or one of the twins dies, there are these little carved statues that are made in which the spirit of the dead twin is supposed to be in place, and is in the house of the living twin. And they're always together because they're two spirits. I mean, one spirit with two bodies, so they never left each other. Okay. Let's go on. I have something to say about the ending in that movie. This is another one. The cowrie shell is also associated with Yabaya, the ocean goddess, or the mother of all. Okay, and this is another one with Shango. But these are the reds. Okay. In Yoruba culture and in spirituality, twins are believed to be magical and are granted protection by the Orisha Shango, that's the god of war. If one of them should die, it is represented bad fortune for the parents and society to which they belong. The parents therefore commission a babaloa, a spiritual carver, to carve a wooden abeji to represent the deceased twin, and the parents take care of that figure as if it were a real person, other than the sex of it. Doesn't matter whether it's a twin female or a male. And you saw in that scene in which that baby was Smoke wanted the baby, there was some milk. That's Yoruba. Okay, those were one of the key things that I saw. That this is the tradition that it comes from our people, one of the ethnic groups that were brought over here, the Yoruba people. Let's go on. That's shown in the movie. This is them together. Okay, Shango and Yemaya. Okay, let's go on. Okay. This character, to me, this is Ryan Coogler himself in this form, because he wrote this movie and he directed this movie. But the essence of this movie, and this kid represents the power that he represents, to me, is what Ryan Coogler, the genius director, represent when he produced this movie. Because of the effect, he broke the veil of everybody who's seen that movie. If you didn't feel anything at the end of this movie, then you're one of the living deads, okay? But you felt something. His instrument, this character instrument, Preacher Boy's character is the guitar, but Ryan Coogler, to me, the true griot, the true storyteller, Jali, was the camera and his directing skills in the tradition of the Jali. Let's go on to the next. Now, these are some of the scenes that I want you to understand. That you see that truck is full of liquor and beer and all that stuff. But again, that's the idea of abundance of the two brothers. They always, in their mischievous ways. You saw the mischievous aspect of the two in Stack, the one who wore the red, and the serious Thunder, Sirius, the protector in the blue. But they both have those abilities in the tradition. But in order to differentiate the characters, which was done so perfectly, you saw a little bit of aspect of what these Ebeji, because they're two people with one spirit, okay? They're never really separated. They always are one. And when Smoke, at the beginning, when he picked up his cousin, one of the first things he did ask was, because they protect children, did your father beat you? Okay? And he said, nah. That's what Preacher Boy said. He said, okay. Well, that's what the Ebeji twins do. They protect children. Let's go on. In this scene, if you look at the color that Smoke has in blue, right, which represent the Yamaya, who's a protector of children, who protector of families, and the girl was kind of afraid when he said he was Smoke. She backed up, but then she felt safe because they are protectors. And if you look at her color that she's wearing blue, and that's associated that she's under the protection of him wearing blue. Again, this is an African story. This is a Yoruba story. She's associated with the blue, which is the protection not only of the Ibeji, him, who he represent in the African tradition. I know who he represent, again, different layers of that onion, who he represent in the movie, but the deeper layers of it is an African story. That's why I want you to understand and how I interpret it. Let's go on to the next one. This is the scene I was talking about. There is they put the flowers there, and there's milk. And I think behind the milk, or off to the left, there's a little brown thing, you can hardly see, but that's a carved statue. And that's what she's doing, like they said in the definition. The family, that's why she's staying there, Annie. That's why I ain't going anywhere, because her baby, that baby, which is under the protection, and he's had to, and Smoke, in blue, was hurt by that, because they are protectors of children too, like it said. And so he is affected with his child. That's represented in this scene. That's where the milk, that's an African tradition. That's a Yoruba tradition. Let's go on to the next. And you look at Annie, what color is she wearing? Associating with Smoke, she's wearing blue. That's Yamaya. She represents Yamaya in the scene that you most likely remember when her voice started just getting louder, when he was disrespecting her tradition. Well, what goddess would not get upset? Now, with all his Shango abilities and his toughness, shooting people in their derriere, did he say anything? He quieted, because he got the goddess upset. And we don't. And look how dark and black she is. Look at the images of the goddess I showed you earlier. She represents an African expression of beauty and power. Right there, embedded in the story, is a Yoruba story of the Ibeji. This is the storyline, okay? Let's go on to the next, okay? He couldn't fool her, because one of the things about these Ibejis, they can be mischievous. You see it more and pronounced in Stack, in the way his character was portrayed, in the one in the red, you know? He had this little twinkle in his eye. But Smoke is also, in his way, because they're two that are one. And she did not fool for that, because the goddess will see right through you. She's wearing blue. The whole scenery had that cast in there, all right? In this storyline, he is the father of the child. In one of the other storyline, this is the earthly version of the larger storyline of Yamaya and Shango getting together. In one story, she had twins. Yamaya had twins, was excited, and she lost one of the twins. And in her distraughtness, she carved one of those carved statues and put the dead twin's body, spirit in that. And that's where that tradition of the carvings come from. It was who Annie represent and who Smoke represent, okay, they represent those orishas, those divinities in another layer of that onion in the storyline of this movie. Let's go on to the next one. Okay, this is what is the remnants of those traditions. We look at it as voodoo or hoodoo in the movie, but hoodoo is just a remnant of that Yoruba tradition or the voodoo tradition. The word voodoo just means spirit. Yet we are conditioned to believe that our spiritual traditions are evil or negative or witchcraft, but we could walk around and watch Thor swing his hammer around in a cartoon or in a movie theater, spend money to watch European spiritual concepts, or Zeus throwing his thunderbolt, and we don't even bat an eye. But when those traditions that we brought with us after we were kidnapped, we didn't come over here in the Queen Mary or some variation in that. We were kidnapped. We were human trafficked. Our bodies created the European economic system, but we brought our traditions with us. And these are remnants of that. And another thing, if you remember in that scene after this, where they got a little intimate, now she started speaking in a language that many of you most likely never understood, but there were subtitles, right? Where he said, "Your body remembers me," I think that was the term. But guess what language she was speaking? That was another key. She was speaking Yoruba. What she was saying in that scene, that the subtitle said, "Your body remembers me," was Yoruba, okay? It's right there in front of us, but if we did a thing where I showed you a hammer and a guy with a blonde hair and a horn hat, you would know that as Thor automatically. Why? You could understand some foreign imagery, but you don't understand your own spiritual concepts that's thousands of years old that brought you. And she is a protector, right? That's what she was doing there, refixing his bag. The terminologies, but there's remnants. She might not know anything about Yoruba, I guess, but she understood the language. But she said her grandparents. But that's how we told stories anyway, from generation to generation. That's what a jolly does. Let's go on to the next. This is the aspect of the twins in Stack, okay? Mischievous. Always, a lot of the stories, they would have these adventures where those abilities would come through. Always conning, always dealing with thieves because they could detect thieves. So they're always associated with thieves. Not saying good or bad, it's just they're associated. Al Capone, the way they're dressing, that's an aspect of the veggie ability that's being shown to us in a way. That's the brilliance of the Jolly that I call Ryan Coogler and how he put this movie together. Let's go on to the next. Okay, this is, I think her name is Haley Steinfeld. She played Mary. That's just another aspect of the hell that was called America, that's with these type of zombie-like ideas of white supremacy and control. She represents the difficulty that black people had to have to express themselves. Doesn't care who you love. But because she had 1/8, or she's an octoroon, as they would say in the one drop rule, she couldn't love the man that she wanted to love. It wasn't until 1969 in America when you couldn't even have an interracial marriage. It had to be done by law, the Supreme Court. That's not natural. Being controlled. I mean, these zombie-like ideas that still shambles called white supremacy is still with us today in 2025. Okay, if he even had if they were caught, they would be killed. Okay, just for that. That's hell. That's sin. That's why Smoke said in the car, we deal with the devil we know, because it doesn't matter where in America, whether you're in Chicago or not, you still will deal with this idea of white supremacy. It's evil. It's a walking zombie of an idea that still shambles through history. Let's go on. Next. This is my man. This was the scene where he said, what we brought over here, we brought this over here. He's not only talking about the music, which was a powerful part of the movie, but he was talking about all our spiritual selves, all our things that we cobbled together and created the African-American world that we live in today. We brought those things, and the remnants is still in us. And we had the genetic memory when we saw this movie, I think, is why many of us respond the way we did to the power, the message. Because our genes, remember, this was passed down from generation to generation to generation. Let's go on to the next. And Remick, of course, represents, accepting whiteness, okay? Accepting that system that he represented. I know he's Irish and all those things, but the Irish had to become white. The Italians had to become white, and whiteness was a vampiric condition. You weren't white until 1630. Prior to that, you were Irish, Italian, French, German. But once you became white, then you got infected with white supremacy in order to survive. And basically, that's what he was trying to let them know, but under his control, okay? And I'm gonna leave it right here. But I hope I gave you a little understanding of how I viewed this movie, Sinners. Very powerful and very African if you look at it at the deeper layers of that onion. Peace, Hotep, bye-bye.